Coming up on Phillies Nation, presented by BQ Basement Systems, Pat and Corey discuss the Phillies' attempts to find talent on the international market and which player could be next. The guys also discuss the future of the team and where the red-hot Ben Revere fits. Natalie checks in from the Hamhouse Foundation Diamonds and Denim event. Plus, I've got the Batters in Box questions. Stay tuned, Phillies Nation starts now.
Welcome in, folks. It is the latest Phillies Nation presented by BQ Basement Systems. Corey Simon, Pat Gallen here with you at the Fieldhouse Sports and Beer Hall. Well, today we're going to look to the Phillies' future, which does not include Rusney Castillo, the Cuban outfielder who signs with the Boston Red Sox. 7 years, $72.5 million. He's got good power, not great power, but he's known more for his speed and his defensive abilities, and it looks like he's going to be a center fielder. Why didn't the Phillies get him?
Well, I think there were several reasons. One, you mentioned the center field defense. That is seen as his best skill. And the Phillies, like it or not, seem to be intent on moving forward here with Ben Revere. He's hitting .315 on the season, red hot since the end of June. So adding a guy like Rusney Castillo, it's kind of adding to one of your few strengths, I guess you could call it. So the Phillies have a lot of other work to be done right now. The bidding, too. That was another aspect of it.
A lot of money, yeah.
When it first popped up that Rusney Castillo was coming to America, coming to Major League Baseball, people were thinking maybe between $40 and $50 million, something close to what Yasiel Puig signed for, 7 years, $42 million. But what we saw is that because it was all major market teams in the hunt for him, the Tigers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Cubs, the Phillies,
bidding got out of hand.
Up and up and up, and it ended up at $72 million, which is the largest contract ever handed out to a Cuban free agent. More money than Jose Abreu got.
All right, so there's another guy that the Phillies are looking at. That's Yasmani Tomas, and he's a big guy, and he's more known for his power. 6'1", 230 pounds. He's 23 years old, and he's at a 70 on the 20 to 80 power scale, according to scouts. So it looks like the Phillies could jump in on him because, as we know, they need that power.
Right, and he's more of the prototypical corner outfield bat, a guy who could come in, play some left field. He's hit for some power over the last couple of years in Cuban's Serie Nacional, but I think Tomas fits the Phillies' needs better because, look, Dominic Brown has had a lost season. He's, just continued to play poorly both at the plate and in the field, hitting .226 with an OBP under .280. He actually ranks in the bottom 5 in all of baseball, Brown does, in batting average, OBP, slugging, OPS among qualified players. So if there's one area you can pick out on this offense that the Phillies must improve, it's left field. And, Yasmani Tomas could provide that. And I do think that the Phillies should be looking to this international market. He's a guy who's going to be a free agent once the winter hits, okay? This is one of the few avenues you have as a Major League Baseball team to add young impact talent at a price that is manageable. I mean, Tomas might be in the range of like a $75 to $77 million contract. That's a lot better than giving a guy $100 million plus.
All right, now if they do bring in Yasmani Tomas, what then happens with the outfield? Who's the odd man out there? I mean, I know nothing is etched in stone because you have Brown, who's been struggling. You have Darren Ruff, who they really don't. It doesn't seem like they know what they want to do with him. So who's the guy that you think is the odd man?
Well, first off, if they were to sign Yasmani Tomas, they wouldn't be signing him to be anything other than an everyday player. You're not going to give a guy that much money for them not to be an everyday player. So really, when you look at the short term, when you look at the 2015, if they were to add him through free agency, Tomas, you're probably looking at a starting outfield of Ben Revere in center, Marlon Byrd in right, Yasmani Tomas in left. And whether that means Dominic Brown's traded, or whether that means Dominic Brown's a bench player, or even sent to AAA to just kind of refine those skills, he's done nothing this season to warrant playing time, even in September, much less next season.
You're absolutely right about that. How about Ben Revere? Red hot in August, hitting .333. We know he's known more for his defense than anything, but he has been red hot at the plate. He isn't walking, and that's a problem. But with the bat, I don't think anyone expected him to be this hot. But the defense, at times, he looks like he's okay, and then it's suspect. We really don't know what to take from what Ben Revere is doing right now. But with him, he's had a solid all-around season so far. Is he in 2015? Is he a definite?
Yeah, I'd have to imagine. I don't see any way the Phillies are going to get rid of him just because, if Ben Revere was hitting like .281 with a .304 on-base percentage or something like that, it's a little bit easier in the offseason to say to yourself, you know what, the defense is suspect, he doesn't have an arm, he doesn't walk, he doesn't hit for power, maybe he doesn't fit in. But if Ben Revere is hitting .315, and look,
is that enough, though? Is .315 enough?
I think it is. I think it's definitely enough because if you look at Ben Revere's on-base percentage right now, it's like .336, which is 20 points higher than the National League average. Sure. So this isn't the same game it was in 2001 where everybody had a 350 plus OBP. With Ben Revere, since June 26th, he's at 368. Since June 26, Denard Span of the Nationals has hit .357, okay? Denard Span has scored 15 more runs because he has a better lineup around him. Ben Revere scored something like 21 runs over that span just because there's such little depth in this Phillies lineup. They don't have a lot of power bats, so if they had a lot more around him, I think his accomplishments would look better.
Sure.
And that's why you probably have to keep him in the fold to see what you can do with him.
Okay, so it looks like Ben Revere is in, but big changes need to be made throughout the Phillies roster. And I think it starts in the bullpen, actually, with Ken Giles taking over for Jonathan Papelbon as the new closer. They've got to see that if he can do this on a full-time basis. We know the numbers that he's put up so far this year have been outstanding, but can he do it in the ninth inning?
Well, so this is my thing with Giles and Papelbon. Yes, Ken Giles has been phenomenal this year in his rookie year, but again, you don't trade Jonathan Papelbon. You don't get rid of him unless you get something of value. Jonathan Papelbon has a 1.49 ERA this season. He's finished 41 games. He has a lower ERA with the Phillies than he had with the Red Sox, if you can believe that. 2.32 with the Phils, 2.33 with the Red Sox.
Sure.
Jonathan Papelbon, the Phillies haven't been able to find good value for him on the trade market in either of the last 2 summers. I don't think they're going to find it this winter either, unless they can convince a team to take on that 1-year, $13 million remaining contract, which does have a vesting option for 2016 at $13 million as well. But barring that, keep Giles, keep Papelbon. Yeah, maybe you don't throw Ken Giles into that closer's role just yet, another 1 or 2 years, but he's still going to be groomed for that position, and you still keep a strong bullpen.
All right, quickly, how do they fix this stale and inconsistent offense?
You know, there is just nothing there in free agency. There's, maybe you try to trade for a guy like Drew Stubbs of the Colorado Rockies. He's a guy who's kind of coming into his own in his late 20s, but that free agent class does not excite me. Colby Rasmus, no thanks. Michael Kadire, no thanks. It's a lot of mediocrity, a lot of older guys. The only young guy who can still hit is Pablo Sandoval. I don't think the Phillies want him.
You know what is exciting, though? That's Ian with Kurt Simmons. Here's part 3 of that interview.
You had some success in 1948 and 1949, but really got everything together in 1950. Was there any indication that year was going to be special in spring training or in the beginning of the year?
Well, we were okay, but we had a lot of young guys. They call us the whiz kids, So
Sure.
The Dodgers were the cream of the crop, And see, in those days, they didn't have drafts or anything. They'd get good players, they could keep them.
Right.
You couldn't leave a team unless they sold you or got rid of you. So you didn't have any control. But anyway, we started playing well, and of course Roberts he was winning, and I started winning. And we just a lot of guys had good years. Jim Constanti was outstanding as our so-called closer and reliever, and he won 15 games that year, Most Valuable Player award.
Right.
So there was some good years in there, and of course, in the beginning of September, I had to go into the service. I was in the National Guard that was activated, and then a guy named Bob Miller was a pitcher. He hurt his back or something, and then Bubba Church was a pitcher. Ted Kluszewski was a big first baseman for Cincinnati. He hit him with a line drive, almost how it didn't really kill him or hurt his eye real bad. But so 3 pitchers were out, and Roberts, he's pitching like every 3 days or something. And finally he pitched the 10 innings in the last game of the season to beat the Dodgers. And so that's how we won the pennant.
Were you able to follow along at all while you were in training?
Well, I was in kind of boot camp out in Camp Atterbury, Indiana. So I would listen to the game on the radio, and that was before TV, of course.
Sure.
Well, they had TV around here, I guess. But so the last game of the season, I'm out. It's Sunday, and I'm out playing touch football with the boys because I didn't want to watch them. I didn't want to listen to the radio anymore. So
Sure.
We're playing touch football. The guy hollered out of the back, "Hey, Sisler hit a home run! Phillies are up 4-1, and then they win the thing." So I got a call that night from the boys at their party, and most of them weren't too coherent. But Robin Roberts, he talked low. He said, "I'm tired, man. I'm going home." And his wife was pregnant with their first child, and she was. So they didn't hang around at the party too long.
So obviously tonight is about education. What did your education mean to you growing up?
Well, education was obviously important. I like to preach that to our son a little bit. I think it helped her out a little bit more than me. I kind of took the baseball route, but obviously education was important. What do you think, babe?
I think education is the root of everything positive in this world.
That's a great answer.
Oh, my education was huge. I went to great high school, graduated from Creighton University. So before I even, got drafted, I got my degree, and that was really important to me.
What was your best subject and what was your worst subject?
My best one was math. Definitely, when I got to high school, freshman and senior year, I had like A+ on all my maths, but science is definitely the worst. Just mixed up the chemicals. I think I only burnt down a lab a couple of times. It wasn't pretty. I say that.
I was always into math, but for some odd reason, history always was something that I excelled in.
Worst subject was probably science. I hated science. Just didn't like doing the test tubes and all that stuff.
And you do fashion design?
Yeah, I'm still in fashion school. I got my first degree from UC Santa Barbara, and I went to Parsons for a couple of years after I graduated to pursue fashion.
So this denim theme is your thing. Yeah. Are you scoping everyone's denim out?
I'm trying not to check everyone out, but everyone's doing well. I mean, they came prepared, and everyone's looking good.
What it's taking to run these schools right now is almost becoming like mission impossible. So what we really wanted to do was go, okay, we understand that you don't even have, the ceiling is caving in this school, or you don't even have a playground. So let's just provide some of the fundamental stuff for these kids. We just want to be part of hope. We're not out to change the world or to change the school system, but really to be a key element in these kids' lives where we could go, that person noticed me. That person noticed me. That's all we're here for. We're just here to support our community that really does support him every day at the ball field.
So everyone's heading into the party, and as you can tell, education is such a big part in everybody's life, even for the big stars in the city. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Natalie. Welcome back to Phillies Nation, presented by BQ Basement Systems. And a couple of the Phillies' top prospects, well, they're red hot. And we start with Aaron Nola, who on Sunday went 5 innings, gave up 1 run, struck out 5, and his 2014 so far has been pretty impressive. 43 strikeouts in just over 50 innings. J.P. Crawford also hot, 2 for 4, 2 home runs with 3 runs batted in on Sunday. And with Clearwater in 57 games, he's already got 8 home runs. Not really known for his power, but he is showing some. And also, Maikel Franco, pretty hot.
Yeah, Maikel Franco hit for the cycle this past Saturday. Over his last 4 games from Thursday to Sunday, Franco went 10 for 16, 2 doubles, 2 homers, a triple, 5 RBIs, has that batting average close to 260, which was unthinkable early in the season when you saw how he started out, but he's really putting together a strong end to his 2014 season.
We need this Maikel Franco watch. Will he, won't he be with the Phillies in September? I think he will be, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Let's go to our favorite segment. It's called By the Numbers, presented by BQ Basement Systems. How about this one? Jimmy Rollins. He's pretty outstanding. 800 extra base hits and 450 steals. He reached both of those plateaus recently. Only 5 other players since 1900 have hit that. There's pretty good names there. Barry Bonds, Ty Cobb, Paul Molitor, Ricky Henderson, and Joe Morgan.
A bunch of Hall of Famers. And you know what? A lot of people are going to say, oh, it's the longevity factor. You're an elite company like that in so many different categories. I think Jimmy Rollins just continues to build upon that Hall of Fame conversation. He might be in it.
And I think longevity these days goes to show you. It's tough to play for 15, 16,
really
17 years. And Ken Giles, we talked about him earlier, how impressive he's been through Sunday. A 1.42 ERA in 31 1/3 innings. Only 3 rookie relievers over the last 10 years have finished under 1.50 ERA and over 30 innings. Kevin Segras with St. Louis in 2014. Alexi Ogando with Texas in 2010. Brad Ziegler in 2008 with Oakland.
Interesting. Not as elite company as the one Jimmy's in, but okay, I got a good one for you. There are 4 players in all of baseball through Sunday who had more than 25 home runs, more than 75 RBIs, more than 50 walks. Mike Trout, Giancarlo Stanton,
of course,
David Ortiz, and Lucas Duda.
How about that?
Lucas Duda. Who would have seen that coming at the beginning of the year? It's pretty outstanding that Lucas Duda has been able to be that productive for the Mets at first base.
That's pretty funny. Let's go to fantasy baseball, brought to you by DraftKings.com. Hey, fantasy football season is coming up, but with fantasy baseball, I went with Michael Kadire of the Colorado Rockies. He's back on the DL. Did your guy do better?
He did. Drew Stubbs hit 304 for the week, couple homers, some steals, some doubles. He's red hot for the Colorado Rockies. I would still pick him up.
Good for you. Good for you. How about this week? Who do you have?
This week I have Josh Willingham, the left fielder who was traded from the Minnesota Twins to the Kansas City Royals after the trade deadline. Since that trade, hit .324 with the Royals, 6 extra base hits. He's owned in just 11% of leagues. So if you're looking for a late season power surge, look at none other than Josh Willingham.
And how about Hector Santiago of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? He's been slotted into the rotation with the injury to Garrett Richards. If you're in a 12 or 14 team lead, you could do much worse than a little bit of depth with Hector Santiago. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere. This is Phillies Nation.
So now we're going to talk about a familiar name in this town, Shane Victorino, former Phillies outfielder and now an outfielder for the Boston Red Sox, who just elected to have season-ending back surgery. Victorino has played only 30 games this year as a result of some constant chronic hamstring issues and lower back issues. And what he was having was shooting pains down his leg as a result of a disc impinging on the lower portion of the spinal cord. If this is a bone or a vertebrae in the spine and the space here is a disc, bone, disc, what happens is there can be a compression of the spine. So for instance, an office worker sitting in front of a computer can compress their spine just by sitting and having poor posture. Just sitting in general can cause compression and tension on that disc. There can still be irritation. You know, he's still sitting on planes and still using cell phones and those sorts of things. So he's not naive or numb to those other stresses that the rest of us are. So here is a view of, here's the front portion of the spine and the back portion of the spine, what are called the spinous processes. So if these are the lower portions of the spine, typically it's L4, L5, or L5S1, where the discs are most likely to be irritated or herniated. Many people hear the term bulging disc, herniated disc. Well, here's the disc material. If you think of that as like a jelly donut, what happens is there's a compression here, and that compression can lead to that disc material being squeezed out and irritating the bottom portion of the cord or potentially the nerve root. And in Victorino's situation, the nerves coming out of the lower back innervate things like your bladder, colon, prostate, sex organs, as well as down the legs into the toes and feet. So he was having leg pain, burning pain down his legs because of the pressure of that disc on the lower portion of the spinal cord. But just from the day-to-day stresses and strains, swinging a bat hundreds of times per day over the course of the years, he's had a long career. It's a lot of torquing and twisting on the spine as well. So on top of the loading from gravity and from postural issues, and then the torquing of the spine and irritations, he's had issues with his hamstrings. The hamstring's attached to the bone that you sit on, and that can pull on the bottom portion, kind of playing tug of war with the lower portion of the body. So there's a lot of different possibilities for an elite athlete or a common office worker to develop stress and strain on their spine and on their discs.
Welcome back to Phillies Nation. I'm Ryan Williams, and I'm here with Pat and Corey. And it's time for our Batters Inbox questions. For the guys to pick your question, and I'll pick the winner. Who's ready?
I'm ready. I am too.
Our first question: which player who has signed a contract of $100 million or more has best lived up to the deal? Pat?
I think it's Derek Jeter. Back in 2001, he signed a 10-year, $189 million deal for the Yankee captain, and only Ichiro during that time had more hits and more plate appearances. So he was able to stay healthy and he was able to produce. Now, I know that Derek Jeter is not the greatest defensive shortstop in the world, but always around 300 every single season, and that longevity is why he lived up to that deal. And if you think about it, $189 million for one of the best players in Yankee history doesn't seem that bad at all. So I'm going with Derek Jeter.
Okay, I'm going with Manny Ramirez. Now, first off, when you look at all the $100 million plus contracts currently, very few of these guys have lived up to the deals. Ryan Howard, Mark Teixeira, Joey Votto, Albert Pujols, the list goes on and on.
Why do you think I went with Derek Jeter?
Yeah, well, I went with Manny Ramirez from 2001 to 08. 8-year, $160 million deal with the Red Sox. During that 8-year span, he hit .315 with a .1010 OPS, averaged 36 home runs and about 120 RBIs per season, so he definitely lived up to his deal.
Well, wait, wasn't he aided by a little something?
He was, but he still put up the numbers, didn't he?
All right, yeah.
Well, sorry, Corey. Pat's going to win this
all right,
one.
Because this guy was clean, is that why?
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question comes from a Phillies fan.
Hey guys, I'm here with Doug from Hamilton, New Jersey, and Doug wants to know,
with Derek Jeter retiring, is he the greatest shortstop of all time?
Okay, well, I do think Derek Jeter is the greatest shortstop ever, but I'm going to put a little caveat on it. He's the best shortstop ever who played his entire career at shortstop, because Think about it. That removes guys like Cal Ripken from the equation, okay? Derek Jeter, among guys who played at least 90% of their career games at shortstop, first in plate appearances, first in hits, first in runs, first in RBIs, first in homers, first in doubles, first in batting average, second in OPS to Troy Tulowitzki. So when you look at all those numbers, when you look at all the off-the-field stuff, when you look at all the World Series he won, yes, he's the greatest full-time shortstop ever.
All right, full-time, yes. But if you played around 75% of your games at shortstop, then no. Because the best defensive shortstop I ever got a chance to watch, now I never watched Honus Wagner or any of these guys.
You
but
didn't?
No, I didn't. Jimmy Rollins, though, is probably the best defensive shortstop I've ever watched. Offensively, it's of course Cal Ripken. So knowing those two things, I can't say that Derek Jeter is the best shortstop I've seen of all time. But man, he's had a pretty impressive career with all those numbers that you threw down.
Well, you're each going to get a point this week.
Is that right?
Yeah.
We're split
Yes,
this
you
week.
do.
That's an abbreviated week.
You didn't get any points this week, though.
I
no?
didn't.
Not this time.
Well, that wraps up our Bettor's Inbox questions for this week. Have a question? Leave it for us on our Facebook and Twitter page. More Phillies news is coming right up.
Hi, I'm Tommy Green. Today we're going to talk about the toughest batter I ever faced. And I think there's more than one. There's I can give you three I'd like to give you an example of, not in a specific order. One was Spanky LaValliere. Mike LaValliere was a catcher with the Pittsburgh Pirates back in the day. And I think my baseball probably looked like the size of my head coming in there because every ball I threw him kind of come right by my head faster than I threw it. So he saw it pretty good. The other two are, these names are household names in the game of baseball, and unfortunately we just lost one of them, and Tony Gwynn, Sr. He was one of the best hitters I've ever seen. Knew what to do with a baseball in the corners, inside, out, up and down, hit the all fields. The only time I think I really ever got him out was when I finally decided to go down the middle of the plate. He hit ground ball to second, ground ball to short like 4 or 5 times in a row. Besides, before then, he had like 8 straight hit-offs of me or so. But the best hitter, probably pure threat, was Barry Bonds. Power to all fields. When he started taking the walks, he became probably one of the best hitters in the game. So I hope this answers your question a little bit about some guys I had trouble with, and a lot of the other guys had trouble with them too.
Thank you, Tommy. Let's jump right into our Twitter trivia. The hashtag is PNTrivia, and you can win some prizes from Shibe Vintage Sports. Last week, the question was Ben Revere, second in the majors in singles this season. Who was the last Philly to lead the majors in singles? Do you know?
Was it Wes Helms in 2007?
Close. No, it was Pete Rose back in 1979. This week's Twitter trivia question, you can do it at Phillies Nation, is this. Jimmy Rollins recently recorded his 800th extra base hit, as we spoke about earlier in the show. Only 4 other shortstops in Major League history have reached that number. Can you name them? Yeah, it's good company. You can do it at Phillies Nation on Twitter. That's it for us. For Corey, I'm Pat. For everyone here at Phillies Nation, we'll talk to you next week.